All right, everyone. All right, I'm looking at you. Yeah, you. No, I know if you're listening in your ears, you're like, why? How are you looking at me? Yeah, I'm watching you. But I'm actually not. We're on YouTube right now. And if you're not watching these videos on YouTube and you would like to see, we are on a beautiful bed with a beautiful Layla Martin.
Velvet on velvet on velvet.
On velvet. And
Layla
there's a
has
cute
velvet
dog here
on.
right now.
Oh, yes.
We also, so if you're not watching YouTube, you want to watch the video version, go check out our YouTube. We also have Instagram, which we've had for many years, and we're putting clips on Instagram. Oh, and TikTok. Let's not forget. Please follow us on TikTok. We're trying to grow that TikTok. I heard it's a thing.
We're trying to be cool, okay?
All
like the kids do.
All the kids these days. Go follow us. It'll help us out. And if you're just listening to your ears, awesome. Go with that. Stick with that. We are here once again with Layla Martin.
Are you ready to get slutty?
Yeah, ready to get slutty.
Slut.
So
Shamelessly slutty.
Yeah, so Layla is a return guest who will be on our show probably every 3 to 4 months because we're obsessed with her and she can talk about pretty much anything and any topic around sexuality. And today we're talking about how to tap into your inner slut.
We've never done this before.
No.
And I love that.
And I
we're
think
tapping in with our slut selves.
Slutty
with
selves.
Layla
And
on
I
a
think
bed.
a lot of people already are probably like, oh no, bad word. Oh no. So, okay, we're going to... We're going to
get a proper microphone slut. I feel like
know.
I need to lick you.
And like, oh yeah. God, now they're like, you better be watching the videos right now. A real, just kidding. A real slut.
I like that.
Okay, so we're gonna go into the whole part about sluttiness, etc. But Layla, once again, you've done this many times. We must hear your story. How is it that you are here talking about how to be tapped into your inner slut? How did you get to this place today? And maybe it's not just about your inner slut.
Do you have a master's in sluttery?
Yeah,
Kind of.
A PhD in whoredom?
Yeah.
Yes.
PhD in being a hoe. Spiritual hoe.
Ooh, yes. All right, but like still a hoe. Yeah.
I
I'm
think
a slut
hoe
for God
and
and
cunt.
cock.
Yes.
Same thing though. Yeah, cock is God. All right. All right. So, anyways, the episode's over. Bye. Just kidding.
That basically is getting a PhD and
Yeah.
being a sacred hoe is knowing that cock is God.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
it.
and that your pussy's God
your
and
pussy's
everything's
God.
Yeah.
All of it.
I bet.
So
yeah,
mic drop then? Mic drop, we're done.
So your story that we've heard in the past, you've gone on a spiritual journey, but like sexuality, and you have all this shame and trauma, and that's my like short version of it. But
Should I tell you my slut journey?
Yeah, slut journey.
Okay,
Let's do
slut
the
journey.
Yeah.
So I remember having the most intense crushes. When I was young, I had crushes predominantly on boys. So I was always like super boy crazy and
Me too.
really like, I remember like going to school just for my crush, like, and how good that felt. And one of the reasons I bring that up is like, we don't talk enough about how good it actually, like that slutty inclination of like, I want to like make out with like my crush and have like a bunch of crushes, like feels so good in your body. And then I, because I was raised Catholic, because of sexual abuse, all this other stuff, I was like a longing slut, but not a fully expressed slut.
Which Catholics make the best sluts.
I know.
Yes, eventually,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
There is something special about a Catholic uniform, the school uniforms. I'm sorry, I don't know. It's maybe a fetish of mine. I just
yeah.
love it. I think they're so cute. I want one.
I'll buy you one.
Okay, thanks.
Sold.
Well, I went to public school, but I did.
Oh, damn it.
Catholic.
I didn't make that vow not to have
God.
sex until marriage.
Okay.
So, that was like a whole thing. And, I actually feel like I claimed my spiritual sacred sexuality long before I claimed my slut. So I could like feel the divine goddess through my orgasm. I could have the most incredible, like wild ritualistic experiences. But I did that largely in monogamy. And then very early, let's see, when I was probably like 24, 25, I had a boyfriend for about 3 years and I wanted to try an open relationship. So in that time, I was with him and he was amazing and epic and wild and hilarious. He went to New York to become a stripper. Strangely, it was a whole thing. He like went to Ivy League tech guy and he was like, I will become a male stripper. And I was like, great.
Good money.
Fucking
in
awesome.
that.
Yes.
Way to tap into your inner slut.
Is he still doing
guy.
that?
Yeah.
No. He took over my company. Anyways, so
Okay.
one of my original
Well, I
one of my
wanna
original companies.
Okay.
And then so at that time, then I had this lover, Lawrence, who was a musician and he was British and he was like so hot. And we were all at tantra school, so they were like highly trained. Ashton, who was like a living Adon Adonis, like tattooed, like huge, massive muscles, so fucking sexy. And I was just like, God damn. I thought the secret to happiness was like low expectations and wine, but maybe the secret to happiness is 3 male lovers all at the same time.
God damn, they figured it out.
All at the same time.
Wait, no, all at the same time.
You have
or
2 hands, a
like,
mouth,
like,
and
like you're with them at the same time, or
I mean, that would have been awesome. That would have been so good.
I'm thinking I have a visual of all the holes.
That's what I
and
was
all the
just doing.
things.
The
Yeah.
2 hands, like the green door, the porn
Or
from the
they all
70s.
just have hands all over her body.
Oh,
All right, but
yes.
anyways.
But it was consensual. They all knew about each other. It was a full like fuck yes situation, but they never hooked up with each other.
Did you cut and paste text messages to all 3 of them separately so they thought each one was special enough?
This is probably before the dick.
I would.
pics era.
Oh, okay. I would do that. It's like it's multitasking. You're like, I love you just as much as I love all of them.
Efficiency.
Yes, it's efficiency.
Higher ROI on your
Rule number
on
one
your
to being a true
slut.
slut is efficiency.
Cut and
Your
paste.
slut output gets a higher input if you just copy paste.
Oh yes.
That's low quality
Yeah,
sluttery.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not judging you if you're doing it, but just like you can up your slut game, and that's why what we're here to talk about. So, perfect.
And then I feel like I went back. So that kind of ended poorly, mostly because I was young and inexperienced with, that partner and all of that. And then I think I went back into like more like monogamy, being in long-term partnerships, stuff like that. And I actually was less sexually liberated in my expression, like in how I expressed myself in the world than I was with just like one man. But I always knew that there was this part of me that was like wild and desirous and so far beyond what society teaches us is appropriate. And I used to be like, I'd never make out with my friends. Like that's all messy. And like, having like play experiences. That's the way that they all got screwed in the 60s, literally, figuratively, emotionally, whatever, like all the things. And
That and LSD.
Kind of LSD. I mean, the LSD might have saved them. We don't know.
Yeah. A little bit of column A, a little column B. Yeah.
And so I think when the LSD turned into harder drugs, that was maybe when the downfall
The
happened.
downfall. Well, on a side note, I've talked to a lot of people who were in part of the sexual revolution in the 60s, and they said it still wasn't what we think about, like women power, girl power, is still very about the patriarchy. And like, so we're still, anyways, that's a total side note. So like the sluttery in the beginning, I guess it was probably in the beginning phases there, but like we're in an era now where we get to like dive in deeper to it, and yet there's still a whole bunch of shame. Okay, I digress.
Still so much
But
shame.
yeah.
So I would say, okay, so there's 2 expressions of sluttiness that I would like to express and really like claim in this episode. So the first is being slutty with just one person, right? So even in my sexual experiences, I would say in the early days, it was like, oh, let's like look into each other's eyes and do all these like sacred rituals and all of that, And I was so much more comfortable in that world and with energy than I was being like, oh my God, like stick it in my ass, like there was this like I like having like sweet, connected, amazing, orgasmic sex, but like getting into like my like I crave, right? And the breakthrough for me in that actually was that for years and years and years, I could only orgasm with a partner if I was fantasizing about someone else.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I could have like the full sexual experience, but as soon as I needed to orgasm, I basically had to go like, seek some sort of like, businessman having sex with a babysitter or something. I don't know. And like, so
hot.
yeah.
You got me with that one.
I was like, wait, why do I have to reach for the patriarchal fantasy to have an orgasm with the person I love right now? Like, what the fuck? So anyways, as I was doing, like exploring that, I was like, okay, I'm going to find out what I'm not feeling by going into fantasy, because there is a place for fantasy. And when you can only do the fantasy, it's usually hiding something. Like if that's the only way that you can have an experience. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to do the fantasy. I'm going to feel underneath what is in here. So I'm like making love to my partner. And I was like, okay, not fantasizing. What is in there? I literally went into my womb, and it was this like priest basically being like, lust is bad. Like you will burn in hell if you are lustful. So I let that experience sort of wave through my body of this like condemnation, slut shaming, like you're going to go to hell kind of thing. And as I did that, this like lust woke up, and it was really like womb pussy, just like, oh fuck, like give it to me in every way, shape, or form. Like I want it in every hole. Yes, yes, yes. And like I was like, whoa, like I've been having to like fantasize to have an orgasm so that I could avoid my own depth of desire. Like, wow. And it was a priest in my womb. That was like,
so was there uncomfortability there when you were trying to tap into that?
Originally, yeah. Like when I was trying to get out of the fantasy and into what was really going on, that was like deeply uncomfortable. And then once it, boom, and I never had to fantasize to have an orgasm with a partner again.
Epic. Fuck you, priest. She's out.
Yeah. You see you later. Or you're just utilizing that as like new fuel or medicine. Like maybe sometimes are you fucking the priest? Are you like fucking him in the ass?
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Someone shows up in a priest outfit
I mean,
to your house.
Strap on with the
good
priest.
religious sexual play, let me tell you. So anyways, whew.
Feeling it.
So there's that kind of sluttiness, right? Like even being in the like, I want, I desire, and like I own the things that I want, even if society would tell me like, oh, a woman's not supposed to want that, or like that's slutty, or that's over the top. Like even women still today, like owning that they love anal, right? Like that still feels edgy for a lot of women to even just claim that desire, or like, I love swallowing cum, or like, you know, being a slut too is owning what you don't love and what you don't want to do, but also like finding like, what's my primal body desire beyond how I was conditioned, beyond what I was taught. What do I really fucking want? So there's that. And then there's like the state of the slut, which I would describe as like, it really is this like raw, like I want, you know, like the essence of fucking desire. And it's such a hot state to be in. So it's so, for me, like I feel it is so sad that so many of us have been so disconnected from that energy in ourselves. And part of it as well is because it's been so co-opted, right? Because it gets used, and the story of the slut has often been told by unconscious men who weren't in deep reverence of the slut. We like are so terrified of that part of ourselves, terrified of, yes, being slut shamed, but also just in terror of that level of desire in a woman, that level of wanting that's been so controlled, so condemned, so shamed for so long.
Like we're talking thousands.
You're
of
like
years.
hysterical.
Thousands,
Yeah, so you need to be
thousands.
exercised.
Yeah. Like thousands of years of getting like, you know, not only slut shamed, which is a fear of death, really, right? Like if you're kicked out from your tribe and your community, to us, that equals death, right? Because we are these community social creatures. So it's so powerful, the codes that are in there. And then a lot of the times too, like men have been conditioned to not respect a slut, like not be in reverence to that expression.
It's like objectifying.
But they might still go pay someone for that business. You know,
They
that kind of
crave it.
business. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what they
crave it.
want,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it's like they want it, but then in patriarchy, it's like I want to own it or control it, right? I want to take what is this like oceanic force that I could never own or control and try and make it my independent swimming pool. And like that also sucks.
Yeah.
So it's like how can we like claim and experience the beauty of the inner slut? And also, how can men find a reverence for that so that it is like, you know, it's not this Madonna whore thing. It's like, no, like Madonna is a whore and that's the hottest thing.
Isn't old school Tantra before, like not modern day Tantra, well, modern day Tantra, but like where Tantra originated out of, wasn't the goddess, the sexual goddess who was this sensual and sexual essence who was having a lot of sex or being very sexual revered? Like, wasn't that kind of like, isn't that what's believed? Is we're talking like many thousands of years ago? Like somehow this was bypassed. I remember, I forgot who taught, I think it was like Caroline Carrington or someone was talking about this, that like, you know, this was someone that was almost on a pedestal for being so sexual. And then we had all these things that shifted. We don't all know, like, who knows what's true and what's real, because we're talking about like old school history. But I personally, actually, Betty Dodson, she said that she thinks back in the day, like thousands upon thousands of years ago, that vulva owners actually abused their power at some point. She's like, I don't think it's just penis owners abusing power and disrespecting vulva owners. I think the vulva owners, like, they're like, we're fucking powerful. We're witchy as fuck. We have these multi-orgasmic experiences. And then the tables got turned, and now we're in this this time of kind of like figuring it out, and it's still out of balance. We're speaking to the too muchness of women's sexuality, the sluttiness, but now we're trying to take it back and be like, no, how can we do this in a good way? And there's also too muchness in men's sexuality or penis owners too. And so there's like this kind of balance thing that we're trying to figure out, like this middle ground. But you're saying you can do it as a single person, you do it monogamous, you can do it as someone who's fucking 5 million people. You can bring that slut in there, and that it takes all parties involved to kind of like revere that.
And it's not just about fucking being a slut as well, right? There's so much more involved, at least.
I think it's like
that's what I'm
owning your
receiving.
desire.
Yeah.
Owning the
it's
desire.
being willing to do what you desire instead of what society tells you is okay.
It's like
that instead
what
of
you,
society.
What you said
yes.
earlier was that like I want, like
Yeah.
owning the I want.
Yeah.
I like that.
I
Yeah.
want to get fucked in the ass.
Or I want you to just like pet me right now. I want you to like lick my face. I want you to lick my toes right now. I want you to suck my toes.
So there could be a dominance to this, taking the power into what you want.
Maybe I went too dominant on that one.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm listening.
Or I want to be like a full submissive right now. Like that can be a huge
Yeah.
part of being a slut as well. And I've looked a lot into this. I know less of actually the ancient tantric history around sluttiness in some ways. What I do know is what's beautiful about ancient Indian society was that they celebrated and had a place for expressed sexuality. Like that's what the Kama Sutra is, which is different from Tantra. But what it is this place for cultural reverence, for pleasure, for fulfilling sexual desire, for having like bedroom arts be like a celebrated part of culture, which like it's hard to even imagine what it could be like if in like American society today we had that, right? Where you didn't get banned on Facebook for talking about pleasure.
S-E-X.
Yeah, like it really was like, no, this is a celebrated part of our culture. This is part of how we're healthy and happy and integrated. What I do know is a lot of the ancient goddess traditions in the Middle East and in Europe, the ways that you worshipped the goddesses, especially Kybele and Isis and certain other goddesses like that, Aphrodite to some degree, it's like, and Pan as well, the Maenads were the female worshippers of Pan. It's like that ecstasy and sexual rites were one of the ways that you got closer to divinity, and that you actually purified and healed your soul through ecstasy. And so when the patriarchal religions, the monotheistic religions took over, and that was their competition, everything that had to do with goddess worship became deeply shameful, really bad, even demonic. So this full expression of female sexuality and power was deeply shamed and repressed for thousands of years. I don't know what Betty Dodson's experience is. Obviously, I don't know what happened back then, but my experience, and I think this is so good for people to understand, is that when pussy is safe and women are high priestesses and in their sluttiness, I've only seen that men thrive. Like I've really actually seen men be like, holy shit, what I actually wanted was like deeply slutty women who like loved sexuality and loved their bodies and loved themselves and loved sex. Like that's so much better than this stupid like cat and mouse game we've been playing. And like
We play the good girl.
yeah. And what I've seen is really like sexually empowered women love to celebrate people of all genders, and like there's this like goodwill of like, can we just have the best time ever? And that's what makes me so sad when people think like, oh, patriarchy and being anti-patriarchy is all like being anti-men. It's like, no, how do we deconstruct that system of power so like all of us are actually in deep and profound celebration of what we are, and we share power.
So I want to tap into this part of finding this slut, because it's obviously there's some work, and that's why I was asking about the uncomfortability addressing the priest, because through that kind of the uncomfortability, and I'm going back to some of my conditioning as a Midwestern human, and I'm not saying everyone in the Midwest is like this. My experience was don't be a slut in high school, which was no PIV sex in my brain. I could get finger banged. I'm sorry if I use that term and you don't like it.
Finger
Or even I
banged.
had a lot of men with penises, or boys at the time, go down on me at that point, and that never made me a slut. But I was always like, I can't fuck them because I'll be a slut, and people talk, and you didn't want to be a prude either, so that's a different thing. And so in my brain, releasing, I remember being like, I can't sleep with a lot of dudes, or because I don't want to be a slut in my brain. And I remember there was a shift there. And so if someone there's religious factors involved in their release, wanting to release their inner slut, or if there's conditioning from stereotypes of what a slut looks like, as you were mentioning, what are the ways to breathing into that, but kind of pinpointing what it is that is inhibiting you from releasing your inner slut? How do you do it, Layla?
So what I recommend is having what I call a pleasure practice. So this is a time that you give to yourself where you actually get to explore and embody these parts of yourself. Like it'd be like, oh, how would I do yoga? It's like, well, you have to make time to do a yoga practice and actually bring it into your body and actually like make the space for it in your life. So that's why I really recommend for people who want to work on their sexuality, want to transform their sexuality, having what I call a pleasure practice, which is literally like 10 to 30 minutes. It can be once a week. It can be 3 times a week, where you actually focus on this. Otherwise, it's very, very hard to move through these layers. So yes, what you're sharing is really important, which is like breath is very key, because it tends to get us out of our everyday sense of control and allow us to feel what's really inside, like what's actually going on deep down inside. So the way that I teach, and what I've found to be the most powerful, is instead of trying to get rid of those pieces, right? Because it could be like, oh, I want to get rid of the slut shaming. I want to get rid of the shame in general. I want to get rid of the control. I want to get rid of the self-judgment. I want to get rid of the whatever it is, right? It's actually being willing to embody those experiences, which means that in some way, shape, or form, we accept them. And when we accept an experience, it will organically alchemize inside of our system in accordance with the laws of nature. So when we go to war with ourselves, what happens is we expend a lot of psychological, emotional energy trying to fight a part of ourselves. And what that does is it actually unconsciously locks us in a battle and retains the very pattern that we're trying to get rid of. So the easy way that we say this in personal development is what we resist persists. But why that actually works on a nervous system level is that when you're pushing against something in the nervous system, like you're trying to get rid of it, you don't want it there anymore, what happens is it actually reinforces the power of that part of our nervous system, which it's a physically existing neuronal network. So if you want to transform a neuronal network, you actually have to get deeper underneath the space in the nervous system where that network is operating. And that's where you start to find empowerment and choice. And the key to that is actually acceptance, which a lot of us, it's sort of counterintuitive. So it's like to transform the parts of us that are blocking us from our inner slut requires an acceptance and an embodiment of those layers. So like when I found the shame and the judgment, right, which actually was a part of the priest psychology that I internalized to block my own slutty self as a protective mechanism. So instead of getting really mad at that priest voice inside of me, it's also understanding, oh, I took that on to protect myself in a society where it wasn't safe to have my desire, where I really was being slut shamed, where that really wasn't acceptable. And so those layers are actually my chosen protective mechanisms. So when I actually breathe into and discover that shame, fear, guilt, self-judgment, control, even being hard on ourselves about our own beauty, all of these are defense mechanisms that we internalize to block the sexual expression that wasn't safe when we were growing up. So when we breathe in and allow these layers and move them through our body, what happens is if those layers serve us, are in alignment with nature, they get stronger. If they don't serve us, if they're not in alignment with our truth and our nature, they will alchemize out of our bodies. So when you learn to embody something like shame, like fear, like guilt, like repression, like inner judgment, what happens is it no longer wields the same sort of power and control over you. At the same time, you often have to create a nervous system experience of safety for the underlying expression that wasn't safe. So at the same time that you're embodying these different layers, what happens is you're also creating an internal experience of safety around being a slut, which was the missing piece in the first place, which is what requires these kinds of dense protective mechanisms to exist. So if this sounds like a deep process, it is. And that's why I have deeper courses and programs, professional certifications, things like that, because this is actually very, very deep work to liberate your inner slut. And it is actually very accessible to all of us.
You need a TED Talk on this.
I know, seriously.
Laser pointer, please.
But yeah, well, that's why you have whole coaching programs. We'll talk about how to get into that later in courses and pieces around that. So what about, so you're talking about, this is kind of the work within ourselves that we can do, and we'll probably talk about this forever, but what about as partners, as someone who, we'll speak to penis owners, right? Because so we're speaking heterosexuality, but or let's just say partners in general, actually. Maybe mostly we're talking about penis owners with vulva owning people, or male identified, female identified, but just people in relationship with vulva owners who want to help encourage their inner slut to come out. What is the work that they can do to support that within their partners?
Should they write slut on Post-its and leave them all over the house?
You're just a big old slut.
You slut, you slut, you slut.
You slut. More slut.
Or it's like, nope, I'm not going to train on that one.
Yeah.
You get home, it's like, slut. You're like, ah!
And one thing that comes to mind, okay, so I remember being in a partnership once with someone who wanted me to do more role play and wanted more like the schoolgirl thing. And I wasn't shameful for me. I have a thing with like being on the spot and being inauthentic. And so I can put the outfit on, but like now I can totally do it, by the way. This was like, 7 years ago or something. But they were like, hey, I wish you would do more of this. And I was like, that's really scary. It's like acting. And so it wasn't shame about this piece. And for that, for me, what didn't work was this person to say like, hey, I really, wish that you did more of this. To be more like, hey, for me, what really would have worked is like, let's do this together, right? That's really like, how about I play this guy, you play this girl, let's do this together, instead of like, hey, can you do more of this for me? And then I just would like kind of freeze. But now it's a whole different thing. So I will leave it at that. What do you think for partners who want to like really bring that out and support that?
Yeah, I think really verbally affirming your partner. So it could be depending on what their experience is of these words. Like, I love experiencing your inner slut, or I love experiencing so it could be less triggering if you're like, when you're full of desire, when you're fully expressed, right? And having the sensitivity that if she's triggered around that, if there's pain around that, if there's wounding around that, or if there's a story, right? So there's a lot of story in women as well. Like, you only want the kind of sluttiness that like I've seen in porn. Like, you just want me to do it for you. You don't want me to have an experience of my own freedom and liberation and wildness. You want me to like perform for you. So there can be this like wall and shutdown to it. And so really using words like, I love feeling you in your pleasure. I love feeling you in your full sexual expression. And if there's any kind of blockage there, what can I do to support you in that? Like, how could I make it feel safer for us to be able to grow together sexually, for you to
write that in a
become more
Post-it.
self-expressed?
You totally,
It's a long Post-it.
Yes, it is. You get the big ones.
And then slut.
Yeah. Slut. But you're just fine as you are, but it's more slut.
I really love that.
Yeah.
This is good, Layla.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
juicy.
So you're saying this could be sort of like an encouragement, and then there also could be like a we process in there as well. And
It's creating a safe space, though. As we've talked about in other shows with you, the safety piece is so huge because you're allowing them the space to be slutty and saying it's okay, and I want that.
Well, in the last show, we were talking about the ugly, friends.
I was using the word ugly, and you were saying power.
Friends having a hard time like letting go and letting loose. And then when I think of that, an ugly meaning like I'm too much, right? Like I'm having crygasms and screamgasms, and it's like it's some pure witchy shit. I mean, we've heard like Kenneth Play on our show is like, when I die, I want to come back a vulva owner because I've seen your orgasms. They're fucking amazing. Like, you guys are like blasting out, and not everyone's all the time, but it's there's like some magical power to it. And so I would say like for my current partner, when I go into my witchy ass orgasmic or sexual shit where I'm like screeching, I'm like full on batshit crazy to some people. He loves that shit and he compliments it and he is like, yes, more of that instead of like being insecure about or like, hey, can you keep
He
it
also
down?
wears T-shirts that show women ejaculating and awesome things.
That's
like
true. He does.
He does.
He
He's
has
like
a shirt
very.
that says,
He's like, I'm a
worship
feminist.
Satan, respect women.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
got this like badass.
He's different, but like,
side.
but I also think that so for your friends that you're talking about, April, you know, if they have partners that were like, just like let that stuff out, you know, and we talked about this in the last show. But I mean, is that what you're kind of saying? Is like just encouragement, like if, and I guess 2-part question. What if when you're with a partner, so you're with a vulva owner, so I'm talking partners of vulva owners who aren't letting their inner slut out, what are some things that you can say to them? And then the other part is, if they are, my guess is you're complimenting it. You want to like give that some praise and build on that. But do you have anything you want to add to those 2 pieces there? Let's say 8 pieces of one, as usual.
Yeah, so obviously, yes, celebrating the shit out of your partner and when they do open up and when they are unlocked and when they are expressed. And the other thing too is learning some basic tools that you can encourage them in that help them unlock their sluttiness. So breathing, and it's not like you have to tell your partner to breathe while you're having sex, but if you're actually breathing, your partner will also usually start to match you. So like if you're doing deep breath, if you're actually like really connecting in a very, very deep way, that's going to help your partner unlock. Being really sensitive, right? So vulva owners have been very like both usually had really shitty experiences of being shamed or judged in their sluttiness, or shitty experiences of being told that they're not enough. They need to be more. They need to have a bigger orgasm. They need to do this or that. So just really important to be sensitive to that level of pressure that vulva owners have experienced and how they express their sexuality. So you're not coming in and adding more pressure. You're more recognizing what her sexual essence is and being willing to her or their sexual essence is and being really willing to encourage it. Right. And like being on this, like, I'm here with you in collaboration to be as expressed as you can possibly be in your sexuality because I love you. Right. Not because I'm here to like pressure you or make you do something for me. And I think the subtle shift in that is huge. Also pussy massage, like, giving pussy massage on the regular, like really helps unlock
with
the
tongue
inner slut.
or hands or both.
Oh, the hands. Oh my God. Okay. Anyways, it's not about me, but I just like, my pussy's happy.
We've talked about this before because Amy was like, I got my pussy massage for like 30 minutes. I'm like, that sounds terrible.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, I would be like bored and be like, let me get to the fucking point here.
She's more of like
but
a,
I am
yeah,
an instant gratification person.
My partner's like, hey, let me massage your pussy, and that could just be the event for them. But he just genuinely really loves it, and my pussy loves it.
Yeah,
and,
if someone did that to me, I'd be like,
Sounds like you need someone who's amazing at teasing and making you wait.
Yes. See, I love teasing and I love waiting where I'm like, just give me that cock now.
Because I think
But
that
I'm
you
so
actually
turned
would
on.
like pussy massage in maybe the way Layla's talking about it.
Maybe.
Like add a little something.
It needs, yes.
Who
I
wants
just think
to
clinical
massage
when I
April's
think about a
pussy?
pussy
Just
massage.
No, not clinical at all.
No. So this isn't about me either. However, I'm just saying there's a lot of dynamics out there. And if you're not a person that enjoys pussy massage for 30 minutes, that's okay too. There's still room
Just
for you to be a
5
slut, a
minutes.
big giant slut. Okay?
So the reason that, like, why, unless you hate pussy massage,
I also hate back massagers too. Okay, this isn't about me though.
Damn. God, apparently
So
nobody.
who hates massage out there? But is also a slut.
But she is slutty though. She
You're
likes
gonna,
him.
you're gonna
Oh,
make
fuck yeah, I'm
some
a slut.
small category of women feel so seen right now.
I know, right?
You
Some
are.
small
Yeah,
category.
yeah.
That's true. It's true. If you're out there, that 1%, I
also
love you.
hate-
I'm you.
also hate massage. Well, it's like there's people who don't like hugging. They might not like massage. There's a lot of those people.
Yeah,
So-
but they
Well,
can be
I've had a lot of
majorly slutty.
bad experiences with massage. Like I was in Nepal and some woman got on my back without permission and was doing the head thing that I showed you all last time with oil, and she was standing on me, and I was like, "What? Why do I need to be straight on?" So I've had bad experiences, and maybe there's a good masseuse out there somewhere.
Someone can
vulva
heal you.
and back.
All right. So the reason that something like pussy massage can be helpful is because to some people in some circumstances, maybe, is that,
This one. No, not just
is
you.
that so inner slut, we're saying, is actually a state in the nervous system. So there is a psychological state that's actually been studied in research and with MRI scans, which is that basically the part of your brain that is scanning for being socially appropriate and whether what you're doing is okay or not shuts down. And so this actually correlates with the strongest, most powerful orgasms when you're with a partner. So you could almost imagine that the state of inner slut is one in which the parts of your nervous system that are constantly judging whether you're being appropriate or not and what everyone else is thinking about you go quiet, meaning that they're not there anymore. And this is a state of surrender. And this is what many vulva owners hunger for. Many humans generally, but vulva owners generally are like, I want my mind to go away and I want to be it fully in the experience. And I no longer want to be like thinking about whether what I'm doing is okay or not. And so what's required is the ability to drop into ourselves so deeply that that mental control starts to melt away. And it's like the body and your energy actually takes over. So you have to shut down the parts of your nervous system that are in that state of constant continual control. And so certain practices help you get there. Breathwork, yes, I talk about that a lot. Breathwork is scientifically proven to shut down those controlling parts of the prefrontal cortex.
It's not a bottle of wine though, right?
No,
It's not,
it's
bottle
not.
of wine can help. No, that's why
Okay.
people like drinking. It actually takes away social control.
Maybe it's
A sense of self-judgment. Yeah, 1-2 glasses. Yeah, we're not talking about blackout drunk, but like, but that's literally why people usually have better sex, after smoking a few joints, after drinking alcohol, because it specifically does shut down those parts of your brain. So learning how to do that with or without a substance, I think is very, very powerful. One of the other ways to do it is through meditation. You can also think of it as sensate focus, which is to be really attuned to your sensations. So your nervous system stops judging and criticizing and switches into a feeling state, a feeling of expression. When you combine feeling and expression with a loss of social control and judgment, what you get is an unleashing of your more wild, primal sexual self. So the more that you can engage in practices that train your nervous system to do that, the more that you're going to feel expressed in your inner sluttiness.
It's creating a habit. I was just reading the Atomic Habits book, and it's creating a habit and getting into, if you want to identify with this inner slut, then create a habit to unleash your inner slut. And that is something that I've worked on so long because I loved masturbating from a very young age, and I didn't know how to bring my inner slut, that self-love person that was like able to orgasm on my own, into my bedroom practice with partners. And after I was able to love myself and release and understand what I like by breathing meditation, huge, I've been able to be wild and fucking tap into my anal and have orgasms and just want it to be powerful. And that is so hard to do because we are so civilized. It's like, oh, I have to be in this box.
I don't want to get sweaty
Yes.
and my makeup dripping down my face. Like, no, let's look at that shit all over the place and like own it, like in our primal selves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's so fucked up about sort of heterosexual dynamics is that in some ways men have been really conditioned to want the inner slut as long as it's controlled and usually not intimately connected in their hearts, right? So that's kind of like whore, right?
Yeah.
Like I want like casual fucking crazy
Why
sex.
buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Like that whole shit.
That reminds me of growing up so much.
Oh my god.
Hate that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in Wisconsin, so cows were common.
Yeah. But I mean, yes, you want to have the experience here, but we only want it in one context in this one place.
And performative slut is usually not scary, right? That's the thing. So if you get kind of like just a woman who's performing sluttiness, it doesn't really shake you in any way, shape, or form. But that state that we're talking about where you're actually fully, deeply unleashed, usually a man has to be initiated. He either initiates himself or he learns it somehow that's fucking sacred. Like your lover, right? That is what you want. It's in my language, right, as a tantric, it's meeting the goddess.
Yeah, totally.
The unleashed goddess and all of the different expressions. And so if you're with a man right now as a vulva owner and you're like, well, he would be terrified, he wouldn't see me, that wouldn't be okay. It's because he hasn't yet been initiated, as most men have not, into revering and understanding the power and nourishment of that state. When men actually experience that, like one of my lovers was like, look, like once you fuck a goddess, you can't unsee that. Like you can never actually
Once you go goddess, you can't go back.
go back to being like, wow, I wish that was faked, you know? Like, I wish someone would just fake that so I
Yeah.
could feel comfortable inside of myself. But there's a huge part of male psychology that's terrified of loss of freedom and loss of significance. And right now we're having this huge thing happen with men in our society that so much of where they used to derive power from is being destabilized, right? And many of them, like, they're not sure how to act. They're not sure how to be sexual. They're not sure where they belong in the world. There's this huge destabilization of what makes them powerful. And what I see is for them to actually go through the initiation, it's to let go of the false structures of power where it was like power over gives me power, or I'm powerful if I make money, or I'm famous, or whatever I'm seen in these certain ways, into like, what is my inner power? What makes me powerful regardless of external circumstances, which is true power. And that kind of empowerment actually seeks power in the feminine, right? Like, I want to experience the fully unleashed sexual power of the feminine when I know my own power. And so there's this way almost right now in sexual dynamics where we're like trying to find our way back to what true power actually is. And so you have this shadowy expression of male female sex, which is like man in like control and performance and like, you know, habit and fantasy, and woman in sexual performance, disconnection, trying to make things look a certain way. And both of them are actually generating a certain kind of resentment towards each other, because that's not actually what the man wants deep down inside. That's not actually what the woman wants deep down inside. But in order to make the way through that portal and activate into her in the full inner expression of slut and him in the full expression of power, freedom, and reverence for that inner slut, is for them to both know their own true power outside of this weird societal conditioning that you have to fuck a certain way and behave a certain way in order to be acceptable, back into like the true nature of them. So like, what's so cool about sexual dynamics to me is like, yes, we're actually learning how to fuck each other in a way that's deeply nourishing, because I guarantee every single man who has ever truly been fucked by a woman who knows she's the goddess with her inner slut unleashed is like, that's what I want. That's actually what my soul has been hungry for. And for a woman to be seen in that and revered in that and safe in that, like, that's what she wants deep down inside of her soul. But in order for us to get there, it's like we have to find our way back out of this whole complex mess of all the ways that we've been told we should be having sex, find our way back into our true power. And that's this like deep, elaborate psychological process. So for those of you who are listening to this, is like, this is not that easy. Like, it's not that easy for me to get my partner to revere me or to worship me. It's not that easy for me to unleash my inner slut. It's true, because it gets to this heart of how we've gotten lost as humans and alienated from ourselves, alienated from our divine power, alienated from the truth of what sexuality really is.
One piece I want to just highlight for folks, when we're speaking about being a slut, it's not with being with tons of people. You could be a slut
Like you
in
said, well,
your relationship. And I also want to say, if you find yourself hanging out with people that are slut shaming, and this is something that's huge, correct their asses. Be like, yo, doggy, however you talk to them. Honey, if they're comfortable and it's consensual and they're fucking the town's brains out, more power to them.
And it's their choice.
And it's their choice.
Yeah.
And when I hear younger kids, teenagers, slut shaming their kids they're going to school with, I usually try to correct and flip the script on them and say, yo, that's okay. If it's consensual, if it's they're doing something that isn't in the consent piece, which we've talked so much about, then that's a different topic. And if they're doing it because they're into sex, or they maybe haven't figured out what they like and they're testing out a lot of different humans to figure out what they like, that's okay too. So I just wanted to pinpoint some of those features, because when I think of slut in my Midwestern brain, and again, no shame to the Midwest, but I do think about multiple partners. But I love thinking about this in your partnership too. I love that.
Yeah, and it can be either way, right? Like there's also a place for us to claim our slutty expression in whoever we want to have sex with and really owning that. I also think there's different layers. Like, I found myself that I am a makeout slut. Like my bar for making out with someone is pretty fucking low. Like my bar for having someone's like penis inside of me or hand inside of me higher.
I am
much higher, you know?
Yeah,
But like, I also love erotically connecting with people, having like energy orgasms or like eye contact or whatever. Like, and so there can be these different dimensions of sluttiness as well. It doesn't have to be like so incredibly rigid. And it's like supporting each other to actually own what we want to be. And it's crazy to me that slut shaming is still one of the places where like misogyny can be so rampant. If you think of like an NBA, like a male NBA player who like fucks all the time, right? We're just like, wow, right?
Yeah.
If you think of like a female gymnast who goes and fucks everyone while she's on tour,
That slut, we got to get her off the air. We got to get her off the, she's off the team.
it goes so deep.
You're so
How
right.
crazy different that is.
Yeah, it's
And the
and
gymnasts have to be great with all their flexibility.
they're probably really good at
Fuck,
it.
dude. They should get out there and just
It'd be a service
slut
to
it up.
humanity.
Right, exactly.
A service to humanity.
Totally. Well, and what you're speaking to earlier, April, like with kids, but oh my God, if you're watching a video, my dog is hilarious right now. He's like, I agree with you all. Let's not slut shame, because it's not just men slut shaming women, the women doing it to each other. And you were talking about young people.
The women on women, I've heard more than men slut shaming.
Adult women.
Yes,
women
adult
in
women.
their fucking
Exactly.
40s.
Research
still slut
actually
shaming.
shows that it's women who perpetuate patriarchal
Yes,
ideas
yeah.
on
Yeah.
each other more than men on women.
Which
That's
is
what
such
I was speaking to,
bullshit.
because
Yeah.
I've heard friends, not in any recent day or two, but in the past few months, where people were being mean to each other, or talking shit. And I hate gossip, first of all. Like Eleanor Roosevelt said, small minds talk about each other, large minds talk about ideas, and then average minds talk about events. Use that one later. And I don't like gossip, and I hate talking about people in their bedroom practices if they're not the ones speaking to it. It's about themselves. Speak to it. But
yeah.
slut shaming is bullshit.
Yeah.
I
It's not-
hate
and know that when you do slut shame, you're showing us your true colors. We know that you're just insecure. We know it's your own stuff that's showing up. But like when we're judging or we're being, insulting or mean or whatever, this is because of our own internal landscape struggle, having some sort of struggle. And we understand that. So go ahead and slut shame the shit out of us. We're just here laughing at you, being like, you haven't worked on yourself yet. And that's cool. But
you
like,
said something
eventually
about
hopefully
that.
you can.
You said something in the beginning about the things that you're most uncomfortable with are probably you had a great wording for it, but it's like the stuff that's probably inside of you that you want to do. You
Yeah.
probably want to be a slut. That's why
Yeah.
you're slut shaming.
Deep down,
you said
yeah.
it better. So
Yeah.
rewind and go listen to that piece.
Also, there's a great practice, because I know that you all love sharing practices that are really helpful. So this is a practice that we actually have in my coaching certification to help eradicate some of this, which is you can self-pleasure and actually visualize a supportive community cheering you on. Or you can also visualize yourself fucking someone as your inner slut and having your community, like people who actually would support you. So it can be real people or imagined people cheering you on as well. And this actually heals something really deep inside of the body and the psyche of like, oh, wow, like I could actually be celebrated in my sluttiness. And I think one of the best phrases, like if anyone is being slut shaming, is to be like, good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Like, the world
Get
would be
it.
so much happier if we actually let ourselves be slutty.
Oh my God, like the valet last night. We were at this hotel and we were like, oh yeah, we have a sex file. He's like, get a girl.
Get a girl, yes.
Just like get a girl, but kind of like, yeah, you get it. Yeah.
That was when
Yeah.
we were at a restaurant. Amy and I were at a restaurant together in Santa Cruz, and there was a fan, and he took pictures with us. And then he's like, well, actually, it's for my wife. She loves you. And I was like, I bet she's good in bed.
They're like,
I hope she's a huge slut in there. Yeah.
All the whole table, all
they're
these
like,
dudes.
"Woo."
Like, yeah.
So,
All right.
yes, empowering each other.
So coaching program. So I know you have a lot of other stuff that is, there's like other programs and things. We have the 21-day challenge. So you have a coaching program, and I know someone who personally did it, I think a year or two ago. I think it's a year-long program. You can tell us more about this, but it was life-changing for them. I've seen their posts. Her name is Samantha. She's been on the podcast before, actually. And her post about how it changed her own sexuality and her career, because now she's doing coaching. But her connection, like she became this like fully embodied, liberated sexual goddess, slutty goddess, and also now can turn this into a career too. So can you tell us about these offerings, including the program, and how people can dive in deeper, and not just about sluttiness, but like, maybe within their career too?
Yeah, so you can learn more about Vita Coaching in the show notes.
Yes.
And so
Click the link, everyone.
Vita Coaching is this specific methodology. So it's a tantric approach to sex, love, and relationships. And so it's a year-long certification. You end up doing a further period of time as well to get into full mastery, where you practice and continue to receive guidance and support. And so what it allows you to do is to spend a period of time, as Amy's saying, where you actually deep dive into your own body, your own nervous system, and do all of these practices, because it's my experience that the best coaches are people who are holding a true transmission. It's not just what they say, body. It's who they've allowed themselves to be. It's the vista that they're standing on because of the trails and the pathways that they have walked. And so when you are holding as a coach this unique transmission because of the work that you've done, you end up resonating as much more powerful and much more masterful to your clients. And so it helps with sales, it helps with success, it helps with results. So we actually put you through a unique 6-month personal process, which is what Samantha is referencing, where you actually transform your own sexuality, your capacity for intimacy and relationship from the inside out. And then from there, you learn our unique coaching methodology to be able to transform someone in sex, love, and relationships as well. There's also 9 different majors that you get to choose from. So you can, for instance, do male sexuality, female sexuality. You can become a jade egg or crystal egg teacher. You can do tantric sexuality, relationship transformation, life transformations, which is things like menstrual cycles, menopause, things like that. So basically you also get to specialize in the program, which is really amazing. So you have like a basic ability to be a very powerful sex, love, and relationship coach. And then you get to niche into something that is your true passion. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can check that out down below. We also have a 21-day challenge, which is called Magnetic. This is for vulva owners. This is erotic confidence challenge. This is totally free. This is 21 days where you get 2 to 3 minutes of a practice. It's a very simple but powerful practice that will allow you to have that feeling like if you walk into a party and you're just like, yes, like you're a yes to yourself, you're radiant, you're magnetic, you're sexy. Also, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about of just like being a slut, even receiving a pussy massage, like things like this can be like, whoa, that feels like a big leap, right? Developing erotic confidence is one of the ways that you actually feel fluent and confident in eroticism, in sexuality. It'll allow you to progress both in the bedroom, but also just in how you feel when you get dressed in the morning, how you move through life, really transforming from being in your head all the time into this kind of sexy being, which feels so much better to so many of our nervous systems for those of us with a vulva.
Yes, please. All. So again, link in the show notes. So wherever you're listening, and if you don't find the show notes where you're listening, you go to our website, shamelesssex.com, go find this episode. You can click on the link and it will take you to all these
And
offerings.
logistically speaking, is this something people could do if they have a full-time job on the side? Because is it time-wise feasible, or because it's a lot, but I'm assuming I could do it, right? I could do it even though I have 2 jobs.
You have like 8 jobs.
I do. Because I think logistics are important for people. If they're like, I'm super busy, can they do it at their own pace, or is it
Vita coaching?
Yeah, the coaching piece. Yes, the erotic challenge.
20-day challenge, you're good no matter how busy you are.
Yes.
So with Vita coaching, it's more intensive than a graduate degree is what most people tell us.
Oh.
So
Which is actually a good thing, I would imagine. Yeah,
Can I go to night school though? Night school. Can I do Vita night school?
Well, yeah, you're actually getting something
yes,
out
you
of
can
it.
do it
Yeah.
totally on your own schedule.
Okay,
That's
okay.
the thing. Everything is recorded. You have an additional year to graduate. So we basically give you a full year to be able to finish all of the academic requirements for your certification and things like that. But I really did develop it as, you know, in the coaching industry, there's a lot of coaching certifications that are like 10 calls and now you're a coach. And I was like, you're going to hold someone's
And now we have a problem.
sex, relationship, and love life. Like this requires like a true, very challenging education. And so I ask people who are thinking of joining the program, if you were going to hire a coach and invest your hard-earned money, would you want them to have done the easiest possible training or the hardest possible training they could find? So Vita coaching, like it is a true commitment. It's 15 to 20 hours a week.
However,
It really
there's no
is a deep
excuse
dive.
because you can do it at your own pace. So
And
if you have
plenty
2
of
jobs
people-
like me, you can still do it.
Well,
but you
yeah.
actually can make money at the end of it because
Yeah.
people recognize you as someone who has really done the work and really can get results.
Yeah, and I just want to say, if you're working 40 hours a week, plenty of people work 60 hours a week, and more. And also, I would imagine it's for people, whether you're a single person, whether you're a vulva owning person, whether you're a partnered person, it would just transform your life. So,
And if you have kids, when they go to bed, that's the time you can open up your laptop and not watch Netflix.
and guess what? It's gonna make your parenting much better.
Totally.
later on.
Yes.
And we do
Yes.
have
It
single
is.
moms with full-time jobs who do the program.
Yeah.
Like that's not to say you can't do it with a job. It's just to say that it is a level of energetic and personal commitment.
Yep.
All right. Well,
wanna
there
take
you
it.
go. No excuses. You're out of them. So we're also out of time, everyone. I hope you watch this on YouTube. And if you're listening just in your ears, when you have time, go on iTunes, write meow, give us 5 stars. We read every single review. We love you listeners. And I actually do get I lose sleep and I get sad over the bad ones. So if you're going to leave a bad one and it has my name in it,
just email us.
just
please.
email Amy and then
Don't
she'll
do
censor it for me.
You just seriously, if you have a legit
take it very
complaint
personally. Amy's like,
about
"You take it so
shameless sex,
personally."
send me an email, amy@shamelesssex.com.
What if it's about them hating me, Amy?
Then I'll read it and then we'll take it into consideration. Like if you have a legit complaint, send it to us.
Yeah.
Save the
Someone
good reviews
complained
for
about
them.
all the accents I do, but I've been doing that since I was little and I like
Oh,
it.
don't you know?
Yeah.
Because she actually is from fucking Wisconsin.
It's
so.
true.
Anyways, all right.
So we're off the tangent now, and we do appreciate your reviews, y'all. So thank you for that, and thank you for being part of the Shameless Sex Revolution. We adore each and every one of you, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Ciao for now.